Want to turn your passion for drawing into a full-time career? Discover our courses at Brushcamp where you become a master in the realm of digital painting. Brushcamp offers tons of similar courses in illustration, 2D, 3D design. Level up your creativity with free knowledge and courses. Visit brushcamp.com today and explore endless possibilities.
Hello. For today's lesson we will draw some ball-shaped objects. I will use the tools that I have learned before to see how well I understand it and how it will be applied in a real drawing. I will draw this yellow ball. I will draw the background. I use this rectangular tool to draw a background. I see this bluish purple color. I will select the hue of the bluish purple color. Bright but slightly vibrant. For example, here I fill it in. I reduce its vibrancy a bit, something like this. Then I fill the color by pressing Alt plus space bar. There is a way to adjust this quickly. Press Ctrl plus U, a hue saturation panel will appear. It will be in the layer, New Adjustment layer. And then I click on Hue Saturation. Another panel will appear. I click OK to create a panel. But usually, I quickly click on this spot. It shows the Hue Saturation panel. When adjusting like this, if I don't like it, I turn off this icon. Then it will revert back. I adjust it right away, Ctrl Z. Press Ctrl plus U. I adjust it right away. For example, I see that this one needs less vibrancy. I reduce the saturation a bit. Like this, something like that. Then I have a bluish purple background like this. I'll create a new layer. Ctrl Shift N, this layer is the background. I'll name it background. I can give it a color that is easy on the eyes, like green. The main object, I can give it a yellow color. This will be the object, my ball. My object will be a sphere. So I'll use the elliptical tool. I draw the sphere, holding Shift. I draw it here, just a rough sketch. I'll also draw the shadow in a moment. And now I'll choose a yellow color to fill in. To make it quick, remember, I'll choose a yellow color from the intermediate area of the sphere. I'll fill it in. It's a plain normal color. I'll use clipping mask. I create a new layer. Then Ctrl Alt G to apply the clipping mask below. By doing that, I can freely fill the color in. Like this, something like this, I can make it more vibrant. Like this. I'll use the smooth tool, so that I can blur it like this. That's one way to do it. The second way, I won't use this. I'll use a soft round brush. I'll enlarge the brush, then I'll stroke it. It will create something similar to what I'm seeing. Stroking it like this is also a way to make the sphere. For example, if I darken it, stroke another darker layer here. Darker and more vibrant. Maybe I'll pull it towards a slightly redder shade, like this. This will be the dark part, the shadow. I'll create a new layer again. Ctrl Shift N, sublayer, Ctrl Alt G. This area will be the bright part, the light area. This yellow color is muted. I want a brighter yellow. It will lean towards this side and be more vibrant. Stroke it, it will be bright like this. It's even more fade. I'll tone this down as it appears too vibrant to me. I'll make it slightly brighter, like this. That way it will be more accurate in terms of color. For example, the brightest point will be here. I'll make the color brighter, stroke it in this area. Stroke it a bit in this area, brighter. Stroke it a bit. Then I have a very soft and smooth shape. We also have a shadow. The shadow will be an inclined ellipse shape like this, because the light is coming from the front, so the shadow will be inclined backwards. I'll create a new layer to make the shadow. but I know the shadow is located beneath the sphere, so I'll place it below the object. It will be a cast shadow. Cast shadow. I'll choose a color, let's say violet. Since the shadow is an elliptical shape, I'll use the elliptical tool as usual. I'll fill it in. The color will be a shade on top of the violet background. I'll fill a solid color. Alt spacebar, Ctrl D. It has a shadow like this. It's a bit harsh, but that's okay. I need to soften it using the following method. Now I'll press Ctrl+T to transform it. I'll place it at the corner with these two arrow marks and tilt it. I can use the arrow keys to move it up and down, so that I can position it correctly. Exit the command. I have the shadow now. So this shadow will also need some additional adjustments. For example, how to make it blurry like this. I have to use the smooth tool with a hard round brush. But I'll lower the strength value. Around 5% should be enough. Do you see? It becomes softer. Softer now. It becomes softer. Quite cute. Soft like this, that's the second method I want to introduce. You can go to the filter menu. There will be something called blur. Go to filter, blur, and choose Gaussian blur. Gaussian blur will provide a more even blur. Radius determines the extent of the blur, whether it's more or less. For example, if I increase it like this, it becomes much more blurred. Fades away like Thanos. This level of blurriness is good, it blurs the edges more evenly. It depends on what you want. I think this level of blur is sufficient. This shadow can be darker than the reference a little bit. It's okay. You just need to press Ctrl+Shift-N to create a new layer. Ctrl+Alt+G to create a sublayer. And then you can fill in a brighter color here. This color, I want it to be brighter. It means it's darker near the object. The farther the shadow stretches, the lighter it becomes. I just need to make the color slightly brighter and fill it in. Or if you don't like it, you can use the eraser to erase some of it. No problem at all. It's dark. If I fill it with color, it will become brighter. It will feel more comfortable right away. The shadow is basically like that. To make it feel more like a shadow, the contact areas are the darkest parts. I can create a new layer. It will still be a sublayer. I'll pick my color and darken it a bit. I'll fill in the part next to the sphere. To make it darker, I'll fill it in with a slightly darker color. To make it feel more comfortable. This is its meaning. Normally it's bright, but by filling it in, it becomes darker. Then I'll feel like there's a dark gap between the shadow and the object. This part, I'll add it. It's not on the reference. Next step, it will create darkness in the intersecting area. I'll make it darker. A little bit darker in this intersecting area. I'll make the intersecting area darker. As for this area, I'll make it brighter. Make the shadow softer. Make it fade away in the distance. Like this. And for the object, it will have an orange area. And a bright area here. I'll still use a soft brush to quickly paint it. I'll create a new layer, Ctrl+Shift-N. Ctrl+Alt+G, I can name it Highlight. Now I'll add a bright area. Make it a little brighter, I'll use this color. Make it brighter, I'll fill it in. Like this, click on it, it will become brighter. Because the surrounding edges are not dark enough, so the upper part appears too bright. I'll go to the shadow layer, pick the color, and fill it in. Make the edges here a bit darker and a bit more vibrant, to make it easier for me to work with. The highlight layer can be turned down a bit. Draw the shadow to make it look better. For this light part, I can erase some of it. It's too bright. Adding a shadow will make it darker. They're making the edges darker. The light is brighter in the middle. It's the highlight. Highlight. The highlight is also bright in the middle here. It only shines somewhere in the middle. But the shadow is strong and dark in this area. It's also a slightly vibrant color, orange, to help you imagine its shape. You also notice that in the middle of the adjacent areas, it has a slightly orange color, right? An orange color, I can fill it in. In the overlapping area, I can create a new layer if needed. Fill in the orange color in that area. Bright orange color. I'll fill in a vibrant orange color. Fill it in comfortably. As for the bright area above the belly here, I just need to make a slight adjustment. It will look good right away. The highlight above, I just need to adjust it to make it rounder. Make it more evenly rounded with these areas. For example, it has strong highlight points. The brightest part is in the upper area, like this area. I'll create a new layer to avoid drawing it incorrectly. This part needs to be even brighter, extending it here. It might have very strong highlights here. It has very strong bright spots here. It can be a slightly brighter yellow color. Like this, then the shape looks more pleasant. I want this color to be brighter. I'll fill it in. The highlight layer. Bright. It's a slightly brighter orange color. I'll use a soft brush to fill it in. For example, with these colors, I want a brighter shade. I created a new layer. I can use blend modes. For example, I'll try using overlay. I'll fill it in. I'll make the color a bit brighter. I'll fill it in to make the color brighter. I'll use a bright yellow color to fill it in. Make the whole thing brighter. Give it a more vibrant blend. My shape will look better. Or down here, I'll have a reflection. A new reflection layer with a normal yellow color, so that I can fill in this area below. Then I'll draw a line, like this, and then I can erase some of it. Erase some to only have a slight impact here. As for the previous overlay, I can give this color a slight orange tint. For example, if it's too orange, I'll move it over here. I'll just give it a slight orange tint. Overlay really enhances the orange tint beautifully. For example, some areas need to be darker, so it doesn't detract from the shape. I can add some new layers, like a multiply layer, to add a darker area in the middle. If it's too dark, I'll increase the brightness a bit. Like this. Like this. Around here. Make it a bit brighter. Like this, it gives a slightly darker intensity, so that I can refer to it more easily. For example, I can add a color dodge layer. A color dodge layer to make this point shine brightly. to create the feeling of it being strongly illuminated. Creating a color dodge to make it shine brightly. I use a combination of normal layers and effect layers, so that I can draw it as beautifully as possible. I think this color is a bit orangish. For example, I want to give a stronger orange tint to the area above. I find it a bit dark above. I use an overlay layer to add a bit more orange tint. I brush it on, just to give it a slight orange hue, so it doesn't become too dark. For example, this area below also needs a stronger orange tint, adding more orange to give it an orange tint. For example, the next layer one need to fill. For example, it has a strong reflection below. Now I'll turn on a new layer. You can see a line like this. I use a hard brush to fill it. Then I reduce its opacity a bit. I fill it with an orange-yellow color. After filling it, I reduce the opacity to see how it looks. Let me see which one will work better for filling. Or I can create a new layer. It has a strong bright reflection here. I can create a selection area, or I can manually fill it with a brush. This effect, when I switch to the eraser, I use a soft brush, I erase some of it. Like this. The previous overlay was a bit dark, not bright enough. I lock it again so that I can fill it with a brighter color. Just to make it brighter here. It's brighter only in this area, like this. Of course, this tail part will be blurred. This lower part. I unlock it and erase some of it. This lower part becomes blurred. It only appears clearly in this area. The lower part also has a strong brightness. Press B, use a soft brush to fill it with a brighter color. The color will be significantly brighter like this. I'll make the yellow color even brighter. For example, if this part is slightly rounded, I just need to add a fold like this. For example, I use the lasso tool, press L. Draw a gentle curve here. Like this. I erase the outer area a bit, press E. In this area, I can press B, fill it with a bright color, so it creates the circular shape I want. Then it will be transparent like this. Press E, erase a little to make it blur, make it smooth. Then it will have separate layers like this for me to work on. Fill in the lower part to make it brighter. It's bright at the edge. These are the final adjustments for the shape. Next is the cast shadow part. I press Ctrl to select the shadow layer. I need the dark layer to be even darker. Lower the darkness of the color. Then use a soft brush to fill it in. Fill it in to make it even darker. Darker. It will slightly tint this bright area with a yellow color. I'll create a new layer again so that if there are any mistakes, I can easily make adjustments. I'll use a yellow color and fill it in here. If it's too yellow, I'll decrease the opacity. For example, I fill it in quite dark like this. Then I can still decrease the opacity. Of course, I should still manually fill it in. For example, I manually fill it in like this. I can erase some of it. It's a bit excessive, so I'll erase some of it. It's better to draw excess, and then erase some instead of trying to draw it right from the start. It will be harder. Like this. Like this. So now I have drawn this object. The cast shadow has some influence in it. It might be missing a bit somewhere, for example. the highlighted parts here. For example, I want this orange color to have a slight glow on this upper part as well. Glow a bit. Brighten the edge of the object, or it has the brightest highlight in this area. Create a new layer. Fill in the highlight for a sharp highlight. I'll use a hard brush. Then I'll refine the shape to make it more accurate. For example, I fill in a large highlight here and a small one. Of course, I'll use an eraser to refine it. You can use a soft brush to refine it. Refine it. And use the eraser to soften it. Erase some parts. Then the object will gradually appear. I fill it in with a hard brush, and then use the eraser to soften it. My job is simply like that. I draw the solid, clear shape. Then I soften it afterwards. For example, this area also has a curve, meaning it simulates the reflection of the tabletop. In front of this is a table, it reflects. I select its correct layer, layer 10. Since it's curved like this, I use the lasso tool. Draw a curved line like this. Or use the pen tool, it's up to you. Press B, press E. Ctrl-Shift-E to delete the outer part here. Ctrl-Shift-I to recreate that selection area. Click here, use a soft brush to add a bit of brightness. Release it. Then I erase a bit. Let it blend into the overall background a bit. We can consider this part of the drawing complete. If you have more time, you can further refine it. To make the drawing as perfect as possible, this is a tutorial demo for you to learn the process. For example, the previous layer, the back layer, sub-layers, locking the colors I use, the effect layers, etc. So I can apply everything I've learned so far. And I can also see a complete digital painting. What tools will it use? You can see that I didn't use all the adjustment panels. I only used a few tools, such as the brush, eraser, selection, using the filter to blur it. Thank you for watching. I hope you can draw along with me, and you can use different pens. Thank you for watching. See you in the next videos. Bye.
Please like and subscribe to our channel.